Good evening. Welcome to another Thursday night session of Classmates. I'm Kat. This is Buckets, and with us is a longtime friend and a best friend and a colleague, Leon. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. So tonight's topic, we have decided to go with Australia. No surprises. And the topic is Australia, are we really one and free? So our first question is, with us being in lockdown, shouldn't we be able to say our opinion on all of us being free?
That's if we had free speech, which we don't. There is an argument to say that Australia does have free speech, but then technically we don't, because we can't do hate speech. Because if we do any sort of hate speech, then our YouTube channel or pages or protests will be shut down.
Yep.
And
which is not what we want to do.
And if you basically say something about another person that's untrue, that person can sue you for defamation. So we're not really free to say whatever we want. So we're not. So even though we want to be like the Americans and whatever and say, hey, we have free speech or whatever, Australia technically doesn't have free speech because there are limitations on our free speech.
What do you think, Leon?
I think we do have freedom of speech to a point, like Buckets said. Right, there are limits on what we can say before it's wrong. Like hate speech, that's wrong. It shouldn't happen at all. Racism, that shouldn't be on at all. That kind of stuff. And there are certain topics that you just don't touch. Obviously, well, there's one which I'm not going to mention because I did talk to you about that earlier on in the week. There was a topic that was brought up and it was immediately red flagged. The moment you mention specific topics, it gets red flagged instantly, and social media like YouTube or Spotify or
Facebook.
Whatever. Yeah, that too, yeah. They listen to it carefully, and if it doesn't meet the set guidelines, it will be taken down. So there are certain topics that you can't talk about at the moment. It's too sensitive. Certain topics are just too sensitive at this time.
I have to agree with you. We do have free speech to a limit, but the thing is to say, with us being in lockdown, we're locked away. What was happening with coronavirus. The thing is, free speech is, as you said, we have to be careful what we do or what we say, because some things that are said do get people riled up and it becomes offensive and it becomes derogatory, or people just get upset for no reason. Like take, for example, wokeism or cancel culture, or, you could say a word and that word doesn't mean anything. But in our day and age in this country, it does mean something else to someone else, and it escalates to a thing that it shouldn't. So he's right.
People are too thin-skinned these days. These people are not, thick-skinned anymore. People, if they don't like something, they will not only complain, is they'll send it to their inner circle, and they'll start complaining about it without listening. And all of a sudden, it's out of your hands and out of their hands. It's just back in the company's hands to determine whether or not, hey, you shouldn't have said that.
That's why I'm saying he's right. We do have freedom of speech to a limit.
But is it really free?
Exactly.
See, free means that you can say literally whatever you want and not be charged for it, not be reprimanded for it. And that's literally what free speech is. But in our culture where we're very, very sensitive, especially this generation, very, very sensitive about absolutely everything, to the point where, cartoons that were once accepted 30 years ago
are no longer accepted now. It's not part
language
of
that was once accepted is no longer accepted anymore.
Exactly. And speaking of wokeism,
do we really have it?
Speaking of wokeism, that's what I'm saying. Are we really one and free? Because if we have freedom of speech to a limit, say, for example, walking around your hometown or suburb or area or whatever, walking around without a mask, What happens? You get a fine.
Mm.
Don't follow orders, get in trouble. Don't stay home, get in trouble. If we really are one and free, then shouldn't that entitle us as human beings to feel our freedom without fear of someone, as in Big Brother, watching and waiting
And charging.
and charging?
Well, the thing you mentioned about masks is real simple. We do have that virus in the air right now, and the government is actually trying to keep us safe. Apparently,
Agreed.
from all the stuff that I'm hearing, this new Delta strain might be airborne. And if that's the case, then a face mask is going to provide protection. Not that much protection, but still enough protection to maybe keep you a little bit safer. The thing is, right, it's the law at the moment. Whether you like it or whether or not you hate it, it's the law. What would you rather do? Would you rather cop having to wear a mask, or would you rather cop a $1,000 fine?
Exactly.
Mind you, masks cost about $5.
Mind you, I prefer to wear my mask. I don't want to run without it. I think it's that important. Like, you don't know, you could be wearing your face mask and someone who isn't in the supermarket, you could brush past them. And before you know, even with your face mask, you're getting all hot and sweaty and sneezy and fluey. And, you know, this is the thing about freedom, Australian freedom, is that there's freedom to a certain degree.
Yes, I think so.
To a limit, as Leon said.
It's interesting because I know where this title came from. This title came from, I believe, the change of our national anthem.
Yes.
So what was it before?
It used to be
Young and Free.
Yeah.
It used to be We Are Young and Free. Now it's We Are One and Free.
But the thing is, I don't, as an Australian, I should be proud of our national anthem, and I am, but to a limit where, hold up a second, we've gone from for we are young and free to we are one and free. And I'm not here to offend anybody. I'm not here to upset anybody. I'm not here to make anyone angry at me. This is just my opinion, but I'm sorry, I do not agree in that lyric. I do not agree that lyric should be put there.
Or see, the thing is, like, I don't think we are really one and free. And the reason why I say this is because racism still exists in Australia.
It does.
And even when racism isn't used, we have subcultures in Australia that actually act as if they're their own countries. So you have Lebanese people talking to Lebanese people, Greek people talking to Greek people, Chinese people talking to Chinese people. And their culture still stays in those areas as if it's their own sort of island nation, even though it's the same country. So to say that we're one and free, I mean, that's a really good aspiration.
Analogy.
And well, I say it's a good aspiration because I would like to think that when I watch a Wallabies game that I'm going for Australia because I'm born in Australia. But that's only because I'll go for them. But I know that there are friends of mine that don't really consider themselves Australian because all their friends are of their wherever their ancestors are from. In fact, I had a friend of mine, I said to them, what did you do on Australia Day? And she said to me, well, I didn't really celebrate Australia Day because I'm not Australian. And I said, well, how long have you been in this country for? And she said, I've been in this country for 25 years. So there are people in this country that can speak English, but will speak a second language, but live their life according to what they've been taught in that culture. Well, that's right. And it will be like they're separated from
Their culture.
Well, no. It'll be like they're separated from our culture to their culture as if it's different.
I mean, I'm not here to anger anyone or offend anyone or upset anyone. This is just clearly my opinion. I'm sorry, that lyric should not be there. I don't know if you agree or disagree. I'm throwing.
I think it's a good aspiration to have, and and I think it's something to aim towards.
Yeah.
but to be honest, I don't think it's quite accurate at this time.
I'm putting the ball in your court. What do you say?
Well, the Advanced Australia Fair was originally first performed back in 1878, and it was the actual national anthem since 1984. It was officially our national anthem since 1984. I don't mind. I was originally against the idea of changing one word in the first verse, but you know, as I think about it, right? Okay, I can accept them changing one word, but I remember hearing. I'm not sure if I'm not exactly 100% sure of this, but I had heard a while back, I think, that people wanted that anthem scrapped altogether. I think I remember hearing that somewhere, but I'm not exactly sure. But I can cop, replacing one word, but if there's a whole bunch of words that they want to change, whatever, then I'll have a problem with it, okay? Because this has been around, it's been around since 1878, and it's been our national anthem since 1984, and it took, 7 years for enough people to complain about it, so we could change one word.
But you guys, actually, that's technically false, because actually we've had 3 versions, 4, including God Save the Queen, of the national anthem. So we had the original Advanced Australia Fair version was really a version which talked about supporting Mother England if anything happens to Mother England. So that was really the first version. And then the second version, it was pretty much the same thing, but the song was different. And then the third version is what we know as today, as Advanced Australia for We Are One and Free. So that it's. I'm just saying that if you're not really worried about like one word or one sentence being changed, just remember that this anthem's actually been changed a few times. And my brother actually remembers basically being in school and didn't actually sing a national anthem because he didn't know the words to God Save the Queen. And so for 10 years, he didn't sing a national anthem because he didn't know the words to God Save the Queen. So that was real.
And here's where you bring up the point is this national anthem has been changed, 4 or 5 times in how many decades? But the thing is, before our own national anthem, we had God Save the Queen, because don't forget, we aren't a republic. We are a Commonwealth. We still answer to Her Majesty, and she oversees everything. But before that, we did have God Save the Queen. And when they come here, what's the first thing we hear is God Save the Queen. Then we hear Advanced Australia Fair. I'm just saying, in my opinion, that lyrics shouldn't be there, because that, even though we have Multicultural Day, or even we have multiculturalism, to be honest, are we really one and free? Is that's the question that plagues me every day, is are we really one and free? If we're one and free, we wouldn't be in lockdown. We wouldn't have coronavirus.
The question is,
we wouldn't be able to.
Hang on, whoa. We would still have coronavirus, even if we were young, even if we were free, because there's no guarantee that wouldn't have happened, anyway. So we were going to have that regardless of whether or not we were free or not.
But the question is, if you look at it from the Aboriginal is racist, Aborigine is not. Or let's just call them Indigenous Australians or Torres Strait Islanders. If you look at it from that point of view, okay, are the Indigenous Australians more free in this country? I mean, they certainly get a lot of benefits in this country. They get a higher Centrelink pay than most normal Australians. But if you look at their mortality rates, if you look at the fact that if you go to Canberra and you actually look at the Canberra side where Parliament is, and then you look at, what do you call that, the Indigenous Australian Embassy, the Aboriginal Embassy, it is a stark difference. And it's amazing because you've got one guy that calls himself an ambassador, that basically lives in a tent. That's because that's considered the Indigenous Australian embassy. And then you've got the other side, which is this grand building that we call Parliament House. And so when you look at both, you look to the left side, you've got the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander embassy. And then you look at the other side, which is the Parliament House side. You just go, wow, you've just defined the definition of poverty just by looking at, these two buildings. It's actually crazy. I recommend that after lockdown, you go up to Canberra and see what the Indigenous Australian embassy actually looks like. It's like it doesn't even look like an embassy. So
I might just do that one day. I've actually never been to Canberra. Amazingly enough, I've been to England. I've been to Manchester. I've been to Earlham. Been to Manchester. I've never been to Canberra. I've been to Queensland.
Years ago. Next question is,
hang on, before you do that, Buckets did mention the mortality rate. As of 2015, 2017, because I don't have obviously the updated mortality rates. Let's see, for an Indigenous females, the mortality rate was 75.6 years. Non-Indigenous mortality rate for females was 83.4. So there's an 8-year difference right there. And the mortality rate between males, the Indigenous was 71.6 and non-Indigenous was 81.4. So there's a 9-year difference between mortality for males, Indigenous and non-Indigenous. So that gap has been closing for a while now.
Next question is, with our government controlling the way we live our lives, does that contradict one and free?
Well, and I talked to Horsey in the last video about this, which was basically 100% freedom equals 100% anarchy. So we can't actually have 100% freedom. If we did, the crime rate would be a lot higher, and would be basically, there would be more violence on the street. There'd probably be more murder on the streets. So you kind of need to have rules. You need regulations. You need policies to keep people in check so they don't go out of control. So that's why we have a government system. I have heard about countries that have just basically just continue their daily lives without a government, because they just feel that, if the rules haven't changed, then who cares? But how long is that going to last?
So I'll mention the question again. I'll put the ball on the court. With our government controlling the way we live our lives, does that contradict being one and free? The ball's in your court.
Under extreme circumstances, the government should be controlling. Under certain circumstances, like obviously there's a little thing going around right now called COVID virus. The government needs to try and get that under control. So the government is trying, or all governments, I should say, all governments around the world, they're trying to get this thing under control. So you don't want it to be completely out of control. Otherwise, like Bucket said, it'd just be anarchy. There'd be lawlessness all over the place. There is some lawlessness currently happening in the US, which we don't see. But the government really shouldn't control too many aspects of our lives, but under extreme circumstances, they should. This is one of those situations that we live in right now, which the government should, because there's no precedence for anything that what we're dealing with right now, and just about anybody in the government. and also yourself and Buckets and myself, we're not old enough when there was the last major pandemic or something along those lines. I think
Like
the
100
last
years
real
ago?
major one was around the 1940s, wasn't it?
That was what, 100 years ago or 100 something years ago?
What was that? What was that?
It was the Spanish flu. I did watch it.
Yeah, I think that was the Spanish flu. There was also another one, I think, in the 1940s or something.
Oh, you're talking about not Ebola.
No, that was about 10 years. That was about 10, 20 years ago.
That was you're talking about the Black Plague that was around. Well, actually, Black Plague's technically still in Madagascar, so there you go.
No, I don't think. No. It wasn't that one. I just can't remember what plague it was, but it took a number of years, and I think it was around the 1940s. I just can't remember what it is at the moment.
The other name for the Black Plague was the bubonic plague.
No, that wouldn't have been the one
But
that I
if
was
you
thinking
notice,
of.
I mean, we're going a little bit off track speaking, and you're right, the government should control at least major things or some things, but not everything. For example, over 100 years ago, when they had the Spanish flu, everyone had to wear a mask.
Might have been the Spanish flu.
Everyone had
Sorry.
to get vaccinated. Oh, what happened?
What up?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Oh no, Richard.
Am I still there?
Yeah,
we're still here.
So sorry about
Yeah,
that.
I might as well give you a heads up while I'm doing this, because there might actually be some internet problems with my end as well, because I believe we're close to getting our internet connection upgraded. So that might have something to do with it. I'm not
As I
sure.
was saying, over 100 something years ago, they had the Spanish flu. They all had to wear a mask, and it was mandatory for everyone to get vaccinated. Everyone had to be locked down. There was a lockdown, and those who didn't follow lockdown rules and protested were fined and arrested. And we are living in similar patterns of this timeline, which is we've got coronavirus. We were in lockdown for 3 months, beginning of the pandemic. And then it went up and down, and now we're back onto lockdown again to the 16th, and who knows after that. But the thing is that I have to agree with him. He's right about everything. Well, he's right about
The thing is, right. The thing is, if we were to give people too much freedom, and look, I love freedom. Don't get me wrong, I love freedom.
So do I.
But if we were to give people too much freedom, think about all the bad people that might exploit the fact that we have too much freedom, because they're excuse the language, but we have assholes out there that are willing to exploit that. So
I mean, sure, we're not like our allies in America, where they are the land, what they call them. Well, they are the land of the free, home of the brave. And
but I would
we're
argue,
not that. We're Australia. We're unique. We're beautiful. We're amazing. We're wonderful.
I would even argue, we had this conversation last time. Sorry for interrupting.
It's okay.
I would argue that America isn't actually the land of the free, and we had that conversation last time. So go check it out. About is America the land of the free? Because I honestly don't believe it is.
But we're talking about Australia here, like with our government. But I have to agree, there's some things they should, but there's also some things they shouldn't. Because if we look at Australia as a whole, we are different, we're unique. But every single thing we say and do, our medical history, our where we live, telephone numbers, our bills, what car we drive, what bus we take, what train we take, how far we live, what area, what suburb, what city,
the food that we eat,
the water that we drink, it's all documented by the government. So again, I'm not here to offend anyone or upset anyone. This is just clearly my opinion. But are we in a big brother state of mind that Australia, we aren't really one and free? Balls in your court.
I already answered that. Like I said, we are well, in a sense that we are younger. We are the government is controlling. Like I mentioned, the government is controlling our way at the moment, but they're trying to stop a virus that they know very little about. And can you tell me one? I don't know if there's anybody still alive that was around when the Spanish flu hit. And that was the one that you were talking about. That was the one I was checking up on while you guys were talking. It would have been the Spanish flu. It was from 1918 to 1920. But that infected over between 17 and 500 million people.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're dealing with an unknown, and obviously technology and all that sort of stuff has advanced since then in the last 102, 103 years. So we're able to get on top of this kind of stuff a lot better than we would have back in the days about 100 years ago. But I think the government is doing a fair job of trying to handle the situation that we're in, but it's hard. Only history will be their judge.
Okay, I'll say some of the situations. They're doing a fair job when it comes to some of the situations, but I can't agree with everything. But if I was to tell you about everything, we'd have to write another podcast.
Okay, so let's get to the next question. I think we've already answered this one. I want to ask it. Why are there so many laws, rules, and regulations in our country if we say we are one and free?
Because we need to have the laws like we mentioned before. If we just said, okay, from now on we've got no laws, okay,
there would be chaos.
Complete chaos, and no one would use money anymore. Money would be completely pointless because everyone would just basically loot everything. So if you just said, well, there's no more laws, so stealing's okay now because there is no consequence, and murder's okay because there is no consequence except the fact that you could use a family member, then basically as a society would just crumble.
I agree.
There would be no order effectively.
And
that's why we need certain laws in place. You can't just have a lawlessness country. Otherwise, there would be total anarchy. There would be no. It would just be everything would just be out of control. That's why there needs to be laws and there needs to be some sort of rules and regulations.
We need to follow these laws. We need to follow these rules and regulations in order to not just better ourselves, but better our country and be able to adapt to things. And, you know, when we're hearing on the news, oh, there's a massive protest in whatever city, whatever suburb, because anti-vaxxers or anti-maskers and, you know, people posting to Facebook about the vaccines or anti-masking or, you know, conspiracy theory of this isn't real and it doesn't exist. And, you know, we should be allowed to do what we want, say we want. This is our human dignity and our human right, etc., etc. We need to follow the law. We need to follow the rules and able to keep every one of us happy.
Okay, well, that's not.
There's a right time. Sorry, there's a right time to do protests, and quite frankly, this is not the right time to do protests.
Yeah,
maybe after this thing's gone, then maybe, but not before.
I would argue that due to the developments in all of our technology, how everyone's got the internet, and everyone is basically inside and whatever, I would argue that with a bit of creativity, you could still protest safely without having to, walk down Victoria Road with a bunch of picket sticks with a bunch of signs and stuff like that. So you can protest on Facebook with just typing in a couple of words and then posting that on Facebook, and that's fine. And you know what? We've done this before. We've actually, when we had that terrorist thing happen in France, everyone put up the French flag on their Facebook pages and said, "France, we support you."
Yeah, we're with you.
Yeah, and that was a form of protest against the violence that happened in France. It didn't require people to walk down the street. It didn't require people to shoot anyone. It didn't require people to yell or scream. It was just a thing, basically, to show that we cared.
This goes back to that sensitivity of certain censorship as well. So Yeah, the thing is, right, we can post those kind of things, but it really depends on how we react. Like we support you, fine, and then we see the extreme left start, or the extreme whatever you want to call it, start posting. Yeah, you want to do this? Yeah, how about if we did this to you? Stuff like that. That's the extreme. That's the extreme minority.
Well, that's kind of right.
You know what I mean?
There's alt-left, which I think is almost terrorist. And then you've got alt-right, which is basically the same thing, but just more conservative. But both can be very dangerous. I just like to point that out there.
Especially if they collide. If they collide, then we start seeing riots and stuff. We start seeing all that violence in the street. The peaceful protesters and then the aggressive protesters, they meet in the street. There'll be violence in the street, and that's a problem.
Take, for example, the whole, as Bucket said, it's fine if you want to protest on Facebook or say something on Facebook. I have no problems with it. But when you're posting the same thing and going, oh no, here we have to go again, and fake lockdown because this is what they want. They want to take our money. They want to take our freedom. They want to take our human rights away from us. We have to listen. Otherwise, we're going to get, be made an example of. And I tend to hide those comments from my Facebook, from my timeline, because it gets to a point where I'm like, I'm so sick and tired and fed up of hearing what someone has to say over and over and over again. Say what you want to say to your life, but don't keep repeating it and posting it over and over and over again, because you're starting an issue on Facebook over all this.
The thing is, right, opinions are like noses. Everybody's got one.
Fair enough.
Except for Krillin, if you watch Dragon Ball Z.
I don't watch Dragon Ball Z, and thank God for that.
Next question is, if we are a country of multiculturalism and different backgrounds, saying we are one and free, then why can't we do what we want? Again, I think that was an honorable answer anyway, which goes back to, this is who we are as a country. This is who we are as a nation. We will adapt. We will come back. We will rise from it. But again, why can't we do what we want in order to be free?
Well, okay,
if you know what I mean.
But it depends what you mean by why can't we do what we want in order to be free? Is this okay? Well, what I might like, or what I consider freedom to be, might be different to what another person might consider freedom to be. If you go outside, right, and go for a walk, and feel that you're free to go to a shop without the fear of being bullied or tormented or whatever, that's freedom. But if you're walking down the street and you have a fear that someone's going to mug you or attack you or arrest you, that's not freedom.
That's fear.
That literally is the opposite of freedom.
That's fear.
That's actually fear. So it really depends on what your definition of actual freedom is. And I know that there's lots of people and lots of women and men out there that sometimes actually are afraid of the streets that they live on because they're afraid of being mugged. So they want to be on the safest streets as quickly as possible because they have the fear that they're going to be attacked or hurt or harmed. I won't mention any suburbs because I don't want to lose subscribers. But
let's just say
but hang on, it is true. And I feel that if you feel that you can't walk down the street without fear, then you're not really free. You're actually stuck in a cage. So that's another definition of freedom, which I think should be better looked into.
Balls in your court.
Well, I do like and respect the diverse multiculturalism that we have, because I like the fact that we've got so many different cultures here in Australia. I love it. I'm learning something new just about every day, even if I may not understand the languages. But there's so many different cultures here, which is I like. But like you said, Bucks. Now, I do worry, that there might be some people. I think we call it the extreme left again. That say if you were walking down the street, you wouldn't be worried about getting fear of getting mugged. People, they'd be just like following you down the street, going, go back to your own country, blah, 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 blah. That's happened to me on buses recently too, by the way. That has happened to me on buses. And I'm going to say it right now. Unfortunately, it was an indigenous fellow behind you. He's screaming and carrying on. Get off the bus, you white F and so and so. I swear that happens to me on the bus. Like, I don't even know this guy, and he's telling me to get off. Step off, I don't have a problem with the multicultural people, but there's some in the extreme left or the extreme drunk that think that. I'm the kind of person that wouldn't get drunk because I don't drink. So, but I enjoy the multiculturalism, but I don't enjoy, being sworn at by some fellow who don't even know me, and he's telling me, yeah, go back home, whatever, you white F and so and so.
Okay, fair enough. Now, if the saying
has that ever happened to you?
Has
that ever happened to you, Kat?
I remember when I was on a train once, and I'm not going to name the culture because I don't want that particular culture coming after me. But there was a guy on a train who literally was, okay, so one day I was smiling. I was really, really happy. I just got a job, and I was basically stoked that I got this job. And I was smiling at everyone, and I'm a smiley type of person.
Yeah.
And he didn't like the idea that a white person like me was smiling. And he said to me, "What have you got to smile about?" in a really aggressive tone. And I had to say to him, "Well, I got a job today. I'm really, really happy." And then he just said, "Oh, you smart ass, whatever. You think you're so good because you got a job." And I was like, "Yes, I think I'm so good because I got a job." But that could have basically,
that could have triggered the guy.
Yeah, that could have triggered the guy. And there was a nice Tongan lady that was next to me at the time and said, "Are you okay? Are you in just a little bit of, are you a bit shaken up by that?" And so I said, "I am a bit shaken up by that." And but she was going to call the cops. So I have actually been racially
threatened on public transport.
On transport for the color of my skin, being a white person. And, I mean, like, maybe I was really stupid. I should have just said nothing and just frowned and gone, I swear, I'm not smiling. I'm really not smiling. Yeah. And then he would have just left me alone. But I could have basically been beaten up, if I wasn't such a smartass. And I was lucky that I had people around me that were willing to defend me.
And apart from that, there just happens to be cameras on trains, cameras on buses. There's cameras everywhere on public transport. So even if they wanted to try something smart, they wouldn't get away with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's happened to me before, and I'm sure it's happened to other people as well. So, but I will say that if it wasn't for that nice Tongan lady that was next to me,
it could have been a problem.
It could have been a problem. And I was actually, that was like my guardian angel at the time, actually protecting my ass, to be honest.
Next question. If the saying in the national anthem is "We are one and free," then why should we become a republic?
So that's an age-old question.
If we're really one and free, why can't we or shouldn't we become a republic?
It's true. I mean, it would mean more to us if we were a republic and one and free than actually young and free, because young and free actually kind of makes a little bit more sense, even though you could argue it considering that You know, the Indigenous Australian culture has been there for hundreds and thousands of years. But it was discovered by English and Dutch people not that long ago. So,
But here's my age-old question.
You know,
That's why I threw this in, because I wanted to put the ball in Leon the Lion's court and say, what do you think? If we really
Leon the
wanna-
Lion, give me
yes. If
yeah,
we are,
Leon the Lion, yeah, right.
if
That
we
was
are
a
one and
one-off.
free, if we are one and free, then why shouldn't we, or can't we become a republic? Ball's in your court, sir.
Well, the reason why we're not a republic is because we have too much respect for the Queen. That's the reason. If we ended up switching to like Prince Charles, that respect will just go right down the toilet until William takes over, and then it'll be back to, you know, me. Because right now, people, even though we don't know her specifically because of our ages, we respect the Queen of England. And you can't really be mad at her because she's really done nothing. She was put into this situation of becoming the Queen when the King died. I think it was around the 1940s. But we have respected the Queen ever since. Now, when it gets passed down, there might be a push for a republic when Prince Charles comes in and he has to take the throne because he'll be the first in line when the Queen dies. Hopefully that's not for a while. Because we love the Queen.
Of course.
Now, Prince Charles will be the first in line, and then wouldn't William be the second in line?
Yes,
I
William.
think that's the way it goes, because
Well,
if they're gonna create a republic movement, it'll happen when Prince Charles takes over, but not before.
Actually, I was doing some research on this in the last podcast. It was either with you or Horsey that we did it with. It was with Horsey, and I did see something online which says the Australian Republic movement is planning by the end of this year to do a national vote to once again turn Australia into a republic. That they were looking at it at the end of this year, to actually the last 6 months of the year, to have a vote, a national vote, and make Australia a republic. I did read up on this. It's called the ARM, Australian Republic Movement.
It sounds about right. But I don't think we're going to have it. It's not going to happen. There'll be the vote, but it's not going to end up with the result that they want. Not while the Queen is still alive.
Well, that, actually, you do have a point. A lot of people love the Queen. They have a lot of respect for the Queen.
I do.
Yeah.
Nice lady.
But a lot less people respect Charles for breaking up with Diana.
That's the reason why the Republic movement will happen when Prince Charles becomes the king. That's when the movement should move, but not before. It's just not going to work.
But in saying that, a lot of people have a great respect, probably more respect for William than they actually do Charles.
Absolutely, yes.
So are we going to get to a point where we think, oh, well, you know, Charles has only got a few more years left and then he's either going to die or retire, but we're going to get William anyway? Or are we going to go, look, if it ain't broke, don't fix it? You know, I mean, like...
Yeah, I can respect that argument, yeah.
You know, so, I mean, I don't really think it makes all that much different. I mean, like, there are a lot of disadvantages of not being a Commonwealth. Like, for example, the Crown does fund a lot of programs like the CRS, which stands for Commonwealth Rehabilitation Service, which is like an employment service. And it does fund, the Crown does also fund a lot of Australian charities. And they we do work quite well with England. Our armed forces do work quite well with England, just as we work well with the US. And if we decided to cut that off, you know, we'd be down like one army basically, and that might change things a bit. But to be honest, under the Commonwealth, even though it is a Commonwealth, we run this country like a republic. And
Yeah. Although the strange thing is, right, you mentioned that we do run the country like a monarchy. However, there are some elements which we do have which are Republican, aka the dollar.
So, but like if you look at things like, for example, because the Crown has kind of removed itself from government, to the point where Australia can write its own policies. Australia can elect its own prime minister. Australia can elect its own ministers. Australia can write its own laws. Australia can make its own money.
Yeah.
Because we've got all these things in place, that's effectively the workings of a republic. The only difference is that we have the Queen on all our money. But
Yes.
aside from that, where
A majority of the money, by the way, if not all of it.
Here's a fun question, and I know I'm itching to see your answers, both of you. Should we change the national anthem as we really aren't one and free? Should we change it, yes or no, boys? I say yes, but go ahead.
I think change it back to what it was, because basically, well, that's the anthem that I just grew up on, and having to basically remember another set of words is just annoying.
Well, we're only asked to remember one word since the change on the 1st of January this year. We only changed one word. Like I said, I didn't agree with the change at first, but I have heard it played a few times since then, and I'm thinking, okay, I can let this one slide. But if we were to change the anthem, why couldn't we have changed it to like Waltzing Matilda, or one of those songs? The Voice, John Farnham.
Yes, you know what? Look, everyone knows You're the Voice. It was effective. John Farnham's not actually Australian.
Make a noise and make it clear.
He was basically born in England. But then again, our national anthem isn't really well, I'm just wondering, was our national anthem created by an Australian person originally?
Ooh.
And I don't think it was. So if that can basically, if they can just forget the fact that our national anthem wasn't actually created by an Australian person, I'm sure we can forget the fact that John Farnham isn't actually Australian, he's English. And just
actually, Peter McCormack was a Scottish-born Australian composer. So he was Scottish. He was Scottish, part Scottish, part Australian.
Our anthem is being created by a Scotsman, and we didn't even know. We should back.
Well, look,
that's it, John Farnham.
Yep, John Farnham, because he's more Australian than the Scotsman.
Hey, be careful! You don't want to start.
Well,
but look at it though. But to be honest, going back to what I was saying is, Johnny Farnham is Australia's son, Australia's sweetheart. You're the Voice. He's our national treasure. So that song should be our national anthem. And a lot of people will say that proudly. It's like, You're the Voice should be our national anthem.
Maybe we should have two. Like we should have either You're the Voice or Working Class Man.
Jimmy Barnes?
Yeah, by Jimmy Barnes.
Hey, there's a swerve. Why couldn't we have John Farnham's? Can we narrow it down to two songs? You're the Voice by John Farnham, or Sadie the Cleaning Lady by Johnny Farnham. If we ever went to Sadie the Cleaning Lady, John Farnham would disassociate as Australia. He'll move to some Hawaiian island or something and never speak of Australia ever again because they hated that song.
What are the lyrics to You're the Voice?
You're the Voice.
You're the Voice. Try to understand.
Make a noise and make it clear. Australia.
And then you forgot. Hey, you forgot. Whoa.
Whoa.
There you go. Hey, go on, give us one, Kat. Give us one, Kat.
Farnham should be knighted.
Kat, give us one of those. Whoa. There you go. We've all done it on the show now.
Next question is, since it says we are one and free, shouldn't the people we elect to government work alongside us instead of work against us, work alongside us or work next to us to make us feel like we truly are represented, we are heard, our voices matter, our opinions matter, our thoughts and feelings matter, and work alongside us, be teammates instead of us working to them or us having to be told what to do by them? Shouldn't the people we elect with our own tax-paying money should work alongside us? I'm not saying they work for us. I'm saying they should work alongside us. What do you think?
Um,
I've reworded it. So,
since-
well, just what do you think? Come on.
I'm trying to read this
Dun,
question.
dun, 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 dun.
1 and 3. Is this the one we're reading?
Yeah.
Since we're
Shouldn't
one,
our government
We're reading
work for us
question
to make us
9.
feel like we are truly one and free? But I reworded it. The people we elect to office or to government, say like Scott Morrison in Glasgow, Ghislaine, Dan Andrews, Anastasia in Queensland, shouldn't they be working alongside us or next to us?
well, that's the kind of the role of government but unfortunately, like there needs to be someone up top. I mean, like they do kind of work alongside of us. Well, local government does anyway. They have to listen to what our voices are, and they have to listen to the needs of the people. And if the needs aren't met, then another politician will basically start listening to the needs of the people and then run for an election, and that's how they get in.
Like again,
But look, the point is, yes, they do have to work alongside the people, because if they don't, their job is pointless.
again, I'm not trying to offend anyone or upset anyone. This is just clearly my opinion. But every time we have an election, a federal election, why should we pick the local people in our government in our local areas and vote for them and give them our trust and pick them alongside their people when what are they doing for me? What are they doing for us? What are they doing for Australia?
Well, why don't you? But I mean, like there needs to be someone in charge to represent the constituency, and that's purely because, well, we have to basically trust one person to go to Parliament to talk on our behalf, the answer to that is if no one's actually doing that, then you yourself could lobby to go to Parliament, which I don't think is such a bad idea, although if you do a Justin Bieber day, I'm going to be utterly disappointed.
Okay, balls in your court. What do you think?
First of all, there won't be a Justin Bieber day here because isn't he Canadian?
Yeah.
Anyway, look, the government, we elect the government to help us, help them. They need us to help them, explain what's going on, and they need to take it seriously. If enough people saying that the same thing is happening, then our government needs to look at it carefully, because if there's only like maybe 100 people saying that this is happening out of how many million people, they're not going to take that seriously. They're not going to take it as seriously. It's going to be, somewhere on the back burner somewhere. But the government works for us in a lot of ways, because they're briefed on all sorts of stuff, like every minute or every 5 minutes or something. There's always something different going on. They just need to figure that out in top priority. What's the top priority here? Now, there'd be some things which really should be looked at, but right now there's only this one thing. There might be something that you might be thinking of. It might already be there, but it's not a top priority at this point. However, it's there somewhere. That's why I'm thinking. That's why our government works for us. And if we believe that the government is not working for us, then we will replace that government with a government that will work for us.
Actually, one little piece of advice I can give everyone that's listening to us, and this is something that I was taught when I was doing a applied social science, was if you have an issue that you think a government can actually fix, approach your local member. Because a lot of people just say, oh, the government's not fixing my problem. But if you don't communicate to your local member what's going on and how they can fix it, they won't fix it. They won't even try. So it is really important that you speak to your local member about a problem that's going to happen, because there's a really good chance that they could either fix it or they're working on it. That if you're unaware of what they're doing, or you're unaware that you can actually approach them, nothing will be fixed. And that's one of the things that we were encouraged to do, which was talk to our local member. You would be
Buckets is right, yeah. Buckets is right. If you do have an idea, then bring it forward with your representative and see if if you have something, write it down or let them know. So that way, at least you can say that, hey, I had this idea. Whether or not it's going to be looked at or not is another story. But I took the initiative, and
in most cases, they will basically help you. They will write back to you and go, okay, we've done this.
Thank you. Yeah.
Or they'll refer it to the right body that will help you. And I've written 2 letters to government so far, and they actually did write a response to me. So, I mean, even if you want to just get their signature and frame it, kind of thing, you should totally do it.
Last question of the night is, and this is to all our subscribers, new and current who are listening, and to all subscribers and our viewers, is that Australia, will we ever be one and free?
Okay, well, the biggest question to that, or biggest answer that I can really give it to you is, we're never going to be 100% free. We will have a lot of freedoms, but we will never really be 100% free, because having 100% freedom is basically the same as anarchy. Your thoughts?
I tend to agree. Will we have freedom? We will. 1 and free. It may take 10 years. It may take 100 years or whatever. But we'll get to that freedom where everybody can live in peace. That's the freedom that I would like to see. But I don't think I can't see it happening anytime soon. But I would like that. And even if it takes 100 years, we can always cross our fingers and hope that kind of peace and freedom can happen.
Peace and unity.
I don't think
peace and unity.
As far as being one and free, the issue is that Australia is too much of a multicultural country. Although we do love our multicultural side, and it does provide a lot of opportunities for Australians, to say that we're truly one is a little more complex, because in some aspects we are one. We do share the same country, but in another set of aspects, we aren't one, because we do have systemic racism in our country. So
that's why I said, it might take 100 years for that to go away.
I wonder if there's going to be a point in time where we're going to end up like France, which is will be a country that loves all of France's things, all of everything that's all the things that make France great, but then we just hate other nations because we think that everything that comes out of France is the best. So I'm wondering, will we ever get to that stage where we think Australia is the best at everything, and every other country is crap or below us? So I'm not really sure, to be honest. Because I can't really answer that question.
Okay, I know this is probably not going to make sense coming out of my mouth. Just bear with me. Is that we see us in Australia? We're unique. We're beautiful. We're wonderful. Everybody loves coming to Australia. Everybody loves Australia. But if you look at the States, they are always saying we're the land of the free, home of the brave, and we're the most powerful country in the world compared to China. Okay, but the thing is, and they say, oh, everybody looks up to the US. Everybody wants to be the US. Everybody wishes they were the US, but no, because we're Australia, and every nation around the world just wants to be unique and different and beautiful and wonderful, just wants to stand out. We shouldn't have to play follow the leader. We are Australia, and if we're great, so be it. We're very proud of that.
But the question is, will we get to the stage of saying we're united as one, as the anthem says, one and free, to the point where we're saying we're one, but you're not part of the one. We're one. We know who we are. This is our culture. And whatever you're trying to bring into this country, or whatever you're trying to be, if it's not what we like, we eat, we say, it's not part of Australia. And that's a really scary thing, to be perfectly honest. So the question remains, is it more scarier to be young and free, or is it more scarier to be one and free?
Good point. Balls in your court. Final thoughts.
Like I said, I am hoping the one and free happens, but right now there are still some generations that don't respect that one and free, because there's always that systemic racism that is still going on. The newer generation are embracing that, but some of the older generation at the moment aren't there yet. Aren't really ready to pass on that. So that's why I say it's going to take a while before there is, a majority of people that believe in the one and free, because right now it's more 50-50.
Yes, I agree. I think it's 50-50
I
right
agree
now.
too.
And I mean, it could work out really, really well. But at the moment, I'm willing to say that one and free is an experiment that could go either way.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I agree.
Well, that's it for tonight. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to having you with us again next Thursday. Don't forget to subscribe, like the videos, leave some comments, let us know what you think, what you thought about tonight, what next podcast you'd like us to talk about. The best one will get a shout out. We have a Twitter page, www.twitter.com/catspacepodcast. We also have a Facebook page. Make sure you follow those pages as well, and we will be letting you know what's coming up in next week's topic and questions. Good night from myself and Buckets, and good night to Leon, our lion.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.